comfortable in VP, and I really trust in my team and looking to win the tournament.
我们队特点应该就是队伍会围绕着大妈去打吧，然后像队伍刚来的那个兔子也是一个就是很喜欢打架的选手，对。
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're at the halfway mark, which means our third series is set to get underway momentarily. Virtus.Pro versus Invictus Gaming. That's the trophy right there that only one team can claim come tomorrow. We've got some new faces on our panel. We've got Purge to my left, of course, Nahaz you'll recognize, and the best damn anti-mage cosplayer we could find in the crowd.
That's me.
Welcome, Cap. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, the thing is, Blitz always is the Storm Spirit because that's all he plays, so I figured I had to be his antithesis. I had to be anti-mage.
I like that. A little love-hate thing going on there. That's good. That's
exactly, because all he complains is about, oh, anti-mage, it's the R button kills me, but, you know.
Fair enough. Did they let you in for free? Because I hear cosplayers get in for free at this event.
Yeah, you'll see me in the competition a little bit later on. I'm going as anti-mage as a New York stockbroker.
Okay, I like that. Clash of all worlds there. Huh? A little anti-magic into the money. It's good stuff. How you doing, Purge?
Pretty good. They found the second palest person in the room, and it's me. So
good.
Malk's gone.
Good. Very good.
Substitute.
A nice tie as well, my man. I think we shop at the same place.
Yeah, they're very similar, but we found out they're not exactly the same, so you can't criticize me.
All right. We won't talk about whose was more expensive. We'll leave that for later. So, all right. Virtus.Pro versus Invictus Gaming. Nahaz, what are you thinking coming into this matchup?
I think this is going to be a really good one. I think the last two series of the night, people should really buckle up because these two CIS teams are really going to force the action. These were the two of the top 3 kills per minute in 6.84, both 25 kills or more per 35 minutes. These teams like to fight early, they like to fight often, and I think in the early days of a patch, I think aggression wins.
Okay, and I want to start by focusing in on Virtus.Pro a little bit. This is one of few teams that had no roster changes after TI. Is this a boon or a bane? Is this something that is purely good, or can it also be a disadvantage because you don't get that fresh perspective coming into a new season?
Well, I mean, they've already got their team chemistry from the previous season. They've got morale really high because they placed pretty darn high in the last patch, and a lot of the same heroes that they play are still decent. They pick a lot of Quap, they pick a lot of Silencer, things like that, and they pick up things that are a little bit off-kilter, so I feel like they've probably got something else up their sleeve as well. Some hero that was just moderately buffed and maybe okay before is even better now, so I could definitely see them pulling some weird strats out.
I really feel like that it is a boon to be able to stick together as a team after TI, that we've seen, especially with the performance of CDEC, that it's not necessarily being like the top player in your chosen field, like having the best offlaner in the world and the best carry in the world. It doesn't necessarily mean all that. As we see the skill cap is rising, that players are actually getting much more even when it comes to player skill, that strategy and team synergy means so much more. And that's why I feel that Virtus.Pro is easily going to be one of the most dominant teams going into this early session after TI, and that I feel like they are going to be one of the best teams here to put up a fight against IG. I think this is definitely the closest matchup here.
Yeah, we haven't seen too many of their matches, but there's been a few on record since TI.
Yeah, VP's played a couple, and interestingly enough, they've played a couple against some of these up-and-coming teams from the EU that we've all been wondering about, and they've kind of shown us why VP still is a top-tier team and should be considered a threat going into this fall major.
Yeah, they were bested by Secret in the WCA finals, I believe, for that qualifier.
Yeah, but it was a close series. It was 3-2, and they really pushed them to the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. It took them to the limit. Now, with Virtus.Pro, I think roaming supports. Lil is one of those support players that loves to rack up a high KDA by the end of the game. Do you have any stats for us here, Nahaz, to back that up?
Well, I think the most important stat I'll remember about Lil was when I asked FNG why pick Visage there, and FNG looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, the guy's played like over 1,000 pub games with Visage. You pick him." I'm like, "Yeah, okay."
No, he is actually like that's all he does essentially. Like Lil just spams out Visage all the time in pubs. He loves it so much, and he's so incredibly good on the hero. There's actually a story that Blitz had. He met Lil in a pub game once, and Lil went for Refresher and Aghanims on the Visage, so he was able to do 3 different familiar, like independent drops, like he drops the familiars 1, 2, 3, chain stunts like 3 different heroes, then goes ahead and does another round without Refresher, like he had his ultimate ready to go, 1, 2, 3 again, and then pops a Refresher and does it a 3rd time. Like Lil is insanely good at microwing familiars.
All right, well, Too bad Melk's not here. He was talking about Visage so much for those first few series.
I like him too. I'm not going to like freak out about it or anything, but
okay, good.
I could definitely see the hero getting picked. He's very good at it. It's something they played at TI and had some good performance, so I'm sure we'll see some more.
Fair enough. So let's switch sides here. Let's talk about Invictus Gaming. Unfortunately, they will have a stand-in. King J, their coach, will be playing as their position 5, at least presumably. I want to hear your thoughts, Purge. Stand-in at an event like this, especially coming from the coach side. He has the knowledge. Does he have the mechanical skill? He's
got a really good history in the past, but his teams, as of late, the last year or two, haven't performed super well. So it may be his issue, especially because he is on a coaching position. But you know, I'm sure they're happy to take the invite to the event since eHome couldn't come. So better play with the stand-in than not play at all. And I think there's a lot of value that they get out of their new roster change, even excluding him. I mean, Rabbit now playing carry. He played offlane for, what team was it that he was last on? It wasn't LGD, was it? It was, didn't he go to Newbie? He played like offlane for Newbie or something like that, and they didn't have the best time. Now he's playing carry again. A lot of people still regard him as one of the best players in the world, despite their performance not going well at TI. So I'm sure we could see some really good stuff come out of him, even ignoring that King J may not be completely up to top tier shape for support.
Yep. One thing is for sure, I would expect a bloody game.
Yeah, I think that playing, especially like the position that he's going to be on, the hard 5, replacing Little Super like that, I think that oftentimes that position is more about knowledge of the game, which obviously King J has perfectly fine. I mean, he was a legend back in the day, and he's still coaching, you know, in Dota 2 now, so I think that he should be able to fill in pretty decently. I actually don't feel it's going to be that big of a factor, unless I do believe that Little Super does actually throw in a lot of the in-game calls, at least I've heard that, so that may actually affect them a bit more dramatically than the mechanics of King J as a hard 5 support.
I think that's right. I mean, to me, IG has really they've actually looked better recently, which is surprising given the talent of their roster going into TI, but that roster they never achieved that level of cohesion that I think we all expected. And Rabbit, who really has been controversial at times in China, has looked like a heck of a player with this team, but that said, they've had some problems with their drafting, and they've had a couple of games that I've seen where they've looked like Ferrari and 4 other guys. Yeah. And to win this tournament, we're really going to need to see that cohesion from them that we've seen when they've been at their best recently.
All right. Well, with that, we have our teams ready to enter the arena. We've got Invictus Gaming set to square off against Virtus.Pro. Both teams looking confident per usual. Thoughts coming into this matchup? Do you guys think this will be one of the most even of the series that we'll see today? Could you give maybe a favorite coming into this?
I'm going to say VP's definitely favored. They don't have a roster swap. FNG looks like he's continued to grow his hair. He has to put in a ponytail now, otherwise it's too unwieldy. So they've got the hair power. They have the roster power. I think they definitely have the advantage coming into this.
See, channeling his inner Dothrocky. Every time he loses a fight, he has to cut the ponytail, and he hasn't lost a fight yet.
I mean, they lost TI, but they did get 6th place, I believe, which was an amazing performance for them. So I think they've got to be happy. I would let him not cut his hair for that win.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think if IG were here without the stand-in, I think this would be almost a dead even pick'em. But yeah, I mean, I think this is about 60-40 in VP's favor. I definitely think IG can win this series.
I feel much more confident about Virtus.Pro's chances. I feel that their performance at TI was absolutely amazing. I think they're only going to get better from there on out. And I believe that even if IG was here with a full roster, I would actually still side pretty heavily with VP. Obviously, with King J subbing in, it gives a little bit more weight to VP as well. So I just feel like, in general, that this matchup is going to come a lot down to strategy, which I believe that FNG and VP as a whole bring a lot more just right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I think FNG is probably in the top 3 or 4 drafters on the Western scene, and you know, we've talked about so much today already. The early days of a patch, we're going to see some teams stick to their guns like CDC. We're going to see some teams trying things new, but I think in either case, that having that veteran presence on your squad as a captain is just such a huge deal.
All right, so as our players get ready to load into the draft, thoughts about key heroes coming into this series? Purge, any idea of really go-to bans that either side should not let the enemy get their hands on?
I think maybe an optional 2nd round silencer ban is still something that IG is going to have to worry about. It's a hero that is still rarely picked, but when it is picked, it makes team fights so difficult for the enemy team, and it may not have the best win record, but it can definitely crush some strategies, especially ones that are focused around defensive supports, like Winter Wyvern, Shadow Demon, Dazzle, things like that. If you're silenced, you can't save your cores, and sometimes that can be enough to win the team fights that push you into the advantage that win you the game.
Yeah, to build on that, I really feel like that we've seen VP in the past with the safe lane silence hit that they run, especially with the way that IG's playstyle is. I feel like they're very scrappy, very mid-game focused. They actually fight a lot, and the carry silencer can completely interrupt that. Another pick that I would actually look to ban away from IG's side. You want to take away the Winter Wyvern away from. I think he's just way too strong in that. I think the roaming potential of him. I think he's obviously the best at being able to provide those really early openings through his roaming potential.
Yeah, I think you have to talk about the silencer for sure, but you also have to talk about Illidan's Slark, and I think you have to talk about Illidan's AM.
Yes.
Those two heroes, I've seen Illidan just go absolutely crazy on, and he's not the kind of carry. He gets off to a huge farm lead, sure, but he's not the kind of carry that then just sits there and farms some more. I mean, he gets off to a lead, and he will just absolutely crush your entire team.
He likes to be active, and at times almost too active. That's a problem he's struggled with in the past, containing that aggression to a point where his team can keep up with how far he likes to dive.
What about a hero like Chaos Knight? It's a hero that VP had picked in the previous patch, and he got buffed again. And they don't even pick him with a Wisp. They're like, oh, Illidan? Yeah, just play Chaos Knight. It's better now. Has the potential to crit for some minus armor. I could definitely see maybe a surprise Chaos Knight throwing himself in as well.
But we should talk about the IG side, because I think when you're drafting against IG right now, I mean, Ferrari has just looked so strong recently. I think you start with what mid heroes do we want to face, what mid heroes do we not want to give up, and I still think TA is just really, really strong this patch, and Ferrari is just an amazing TA player.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially on the Dire side. Templar Assassin is a really big threat right now. He's one of the heroes, she's one of the heroes that really didn't get touched at all going into 6.85, and I think that only makes you stronger, as many other mids have actually been nerfed away a bit. And I do agree with you that focus on the Ferrari heroes to begin with. I mean, there's a reason this guy has been, that IG was essentially crafted around him from the beginning.
Yeah, another key hero to look out for IG is Rubik. The support duo on that team has historically prioritized Rubik beyond any other team.
Yep.
So we'll see if that's going to be true here. But we, alas, are in our draft, folks. Game number 1 of Virtus.Pro versus Invictus Gaming. The bans are already underway.
Yeah, no alas about this, man. This should be a lot of fun. And I think if we're going to see two heroes, I think if we're going to see any team maybe stick with Storm Spirit, it'll be IG. You might still see a Ferrari Storm in spite of all the nerfs. And I think if you're going to see any team possibly try out Enchantress, it's going to be either IG or possibly Secret.
You can't forget about the Queen of Pain as well, another classic hero in the hands
Ferrari.
of 430.
Oh, there it is. No big surprise at all.
On the other side of the coin, but still.
Oh my goodness. The numbers that G put up on this hero in the last patch were just absolutely staggering. I mean, he had half a dozen different games where he was over 10 kills at like 35 minutes with this hero. He just has gone so ham. And safe lane Queen is not bad either.
Isn't that G on every hero though? Definitely has some of the biggest numbers.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that certainly puts up a lot of kills, but he's very, very good at getting out of the fight with Queen of Pain. Okay. I mean, the part of the problem with G is that he also tends to die a lot.
Okay.
I feel like he maximizes the potential of tempo controllers like Queen of Pain and Lina quite well. So I would be less scared of perhaps more of a farm-oriented mid-hero on G. Yep. I'm much more scared about tempo controllers like Queen of Pain that get aggressive early.
Yeah, and of course he is also known for his Shadow Fiend play that's been banned out here by Virtus.Pro, but something else to keep in mind as this series progresses.
Ferrari is a great Shadow Fiend. That's probably the reason they banned it. It's a lot safer for them just to go for the co-op. It protects them against all matchups while still having a good hero. The hero was barely nerfed in the last patch, so she's still absolutely great, and IGs can respond with a Gyrocopter and a Tuskar.
All right, no surprise about the Tusk. He's still been strong as ever on 6.85 despite his minor nerfs, but the Bounty Hunter straight away from Virtus.Pro. We were curious if CDEC would stick to their guns, but it seems VP is taking a page out of the 6.84 book as well.
Well, and again, if there are two teams here that are going to get value out of the Bounty Hunter in that first phase, it's going to be those two, right? And maybe Vega, just because of the way that VP likes to force action. They get, last patch they got about 40% of their kills came between 10 and 20 minutes, and that's exactly the stage of the game where Bounty Hunter can hit that 6 and just start racking up the track gold.
Yeah,
I think that's really why the Undying was banned out in the first one too. 2. I think he's pretty much one of the more powerful, aggressive heroes in 6.85. And again, it's going to be a key hero that I think IG or VP could play off very well. Bounty Hunter, again, kind of makes sure that you don't necessarily want to go into too many early fights, or that track gold really starts firing against you, which I think is what IG want to force. They want to try and get as many 15 to 30-minute team fights in as possible.
I don't know. It's such a risk with a Bounty Hunter on the opposite side. Now, so question to you guys is, are we going to keep seeing Gyrocopter in the first phase? Because I just feel like that hero has lost a lot of value, especially against like melee or short-range BKB carries.
I don't really agree personally. I feel like he still makes your tri lanes very safe. It's one of the reasons that he's picked. Like at TI5, for example, we saw so many games where EG would just pick Razor, and that's because they didn't want to have the opportunity of their opponents to pressure them. And if you have a Gyro carry and you don't hard pick into your supports, you can always threaten doing an aggressive tri lane or doing a very strong defensive tri lane. And Gyro, unlike many carries, just guarantees that. You hit level 3 and all of a sudden your Rocket Barrage does like, I don't know, 350 damage or something like that. It's a massive damage nuke on a very low cooldown, and all you have to do is run after somebody. And he also transitions well into a late game carry unless you're against Alina Ags. That was maybe the one case where Gyro doesn't scale that well in the late game. So he's not as hard of a carry as maybe some other options, but his tri lane or his laning stage is very safe. He's a ranged hero. He's a little hard to punish. I think he's still a great carry.
Yeah, and there's the TA ban coming out from VP. Definitely think that's really smart. I also really like the Darkseer ban coming out from IG. That hero is just a lot of value. And of course, there's the Silencer we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. No surprise. All these bans make a lot of sense here in the second banning phase. We've seen the power of the Broodmother displayed today, and I think we'll continue to see her banned out quite frequently. And, oh boy, there we go.
It's got to be Rubik.
The bread and butter for IG.
I was just about to say, that's the most obvious third pick for IG at this point in time. Like, Rubik has a lot of spell steals that he can get from both Queen of Pain and Bounty Hunter. If you can take the track, you know, what a big turnaround that can potentially offer you. And then, of course, the Blink on Queen of Pain can be super valuable on a support Rubik. And it also sets up your other heroes. This is one of the big things about a support Rubik, is that he doesn't offer a whole lot of damage, but he sets up other heroes. And you look at the first 1-2 opening, a lot of damage out of both of those. Gyrocopter and Tusk offer so much in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's also a little bit of clockwork insurance too. Oh, the Leshrac coming out third here. This is a little bit of a surprise.
Okay, so curious how they'll lane this. We've been talking about where does Lesh sit right now? More of a support or more in that position 1 role?
Lesh can support, but technically he was nerfed in the support role since Lightning Storm, you know, if you're a squishy hero, if you don't have a lot of money, you're going to be easier to kill, and Lesh actually has horrible strength gain. You just don't normally encounter that because he buys things like Bloodstone and quickly transitions into HP items. But if you're playing support, you can't just sit from range and throw a stun and a lightning. And the way that Puppy played him earlier today, he went 3-1-1, which gave him a little bit of all options. But it's a 50 damage lightning. It's not that strong. So I feel like support Leshrac is an option, but there's just better support heroes. Like Lina is a clear better support hero at the same role that Leshrac does. Obviously it's banned here, but I still think there's better heroes, so it's probably going to be a core, I would guess.
Particularly without a setup stun. I mean, you're running a Bounty Hunter as presumably your 4 position here. That makes the Leshrac even weaker, I think.
Well, good call there, Purge. The Chaos Knight comes out 4th pick for Virtus.Pro, but before we delve into that, I want to mention this Alchemist here on IG. When I think Alchemist in China, I think of Big Super.
Yeah.
That's one of his classic strategies, of course, not on this lineup, but I'm curious how this Alchemist pick will work out here.
I think Alchemist is either best as a farming or a mid. I don't think he's really viable as a support anymore since he's been getting a billion buffs to his gold gain, which is not something you find much as a support. So probably we'll see him in the safe lane like Envy played him earlier today, or maybe mid.
Yeah, I'm going to call mid.
But it's both a Lesh and a Quap. I feel like he's going to get outlaned in those scenarios.
Really tough matchups.
Until he hits 6. When he hits 6, then he's happy. He's going to get tons of regen and all this other good stuff. And it's a bounty mid, so bounty Quap can easily kill an Alchemist in the early game. I feel like it has to be a safe farming Alch, but then that puts maybe Gyro mid.
Yeah, I still think you're going to... Ferrari does have some Alch games in his career. He hasn't run in a while, but he is 8-2 career on the hero.
To go back to the mid Alchemist, it is going to be Radiant side, and I think you also like potentially putting one of those supports hovering on the middle lane because Radiant side stacking up those camps. I think maybe the Alchemist just goes for, this will offset the advantage that Queen of Pain or Leshrac would definitely have over the Alchemist. The Stout Shield, double regen, and then go straight for the fast bottle with the Bounding Rune. That can allow you to maybe have just enough sustain to deal with the early aggression, but I do agree with you. It should be a winning matchup for either one of those intelligence heroes, and that definitely bothers me because you don't want to see the Leshrac and Queen of Pain start spiraling out of control with their damage.
Yeah, some flexibility here for IG with their final pick. The Tusk being the main one here that could be the offlaner, could also be the position 4, and they'll be the ones to grab the Shadow Priest, Mr. Dazzle, so it will be a core Tusk probably in the 3.
Yeah, and they've run Dazzle, I think, as much as any other hero in the last 10 games. I believe they're 7-1 with the hero. Very, very comfortable on both sides of the map with that.
You know, I do kind of like Gyro mid now that I'm thinking about it. It's maybe not as good against a Leshrac and a Quap, but imagine a Bounty Hunter harassing a Gyro. You can't do that because he's just going to press his R button and he's going to do 200-300 damage to the Bounty Hunter as long as you have vision. So it might make him a little safe against that kind of a thing.
So do you switch Ferrari into this? Ferrari only has 1 career appearance on Gyrocopter, I mean, so do you switch him into the safe lane?
The guy's a really good player. He's a TI winner. He can play probably any hero.
Oh yes.
Wow.
First here for this tournament, Phoenix for VP.
I cannot agree with this. I think this hero is really, really squishy for an offlaner.
But there's not very many good egg kills, I would argue. I mean, Alchemist attacks amazingly fast, obviously, but I feel like they don't have the best egg destroying heroes.
I think they needed a little bit extra team fight potential out of the side of VP. I think that the Phoenix exactly gives you that kind of you set up that supernova right, and you can't really fight around it unless you address it. And I think there's going to be enough control. And that's one of the big things with Phoenix. You really need good controlling heroes on your side to make sure they can't just focus down the supernova. And I think VP do have enough. I see a lot of synergy there. The question is whether or not their laning phase is really going to work out. But I'm sure VP have a plan in that regard. I'm not sure if that involves a lot of early aggression. Maybe the Bounty Hunter even providing some space for the Phoenix. We'll see. The supports really aren't the best for punishing offlaners. Rubik and Dazzle pretty weak on damage.
Okay, and with that, I want quick predictions from each of you after seeing the draft who's taking game 1.
I'm going to stick with the VP, I think. I have faith in their lineup. I think it's pretty interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of Chaos Knight.
I'm going to go IG, for sure.
I like the Chaos Knight. I'll go VP.
All right, I am inclined to agree. I want to see this Phoenix Chaos Knight do some work. With that, folks, we've got game number 1 of Virtus.Pro versus Invictus Gaming set to get underway. We're going to hand it over to the casters.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Toby Warner here with the wonderful Blitz Dota to bring our 3rd series of the day, VP up against IG. It seems the panel is pretty heavily in favor of VP, apart from Nahaz, who threw his hat into the IG bucket.
I mean, Cap is naturally going to be a little bit biased towards VP because VP's captain, FNG, is like the only person that actually likes Cap as a caster. So it's one of those things where you've got that bond straight away.
30 seconds to battle.
Was that a little too harsh? I've got so many.
That is just a certain revenge right there for all the Storm Spirit jokes he was cracking earlier.
Real original, great stuff.
Yeah. Come on, sometimes the classics are the best, man. Personally, I really like the IG draft. I like their combination of team fight. I like their way to work. Would be very concerned if I was an IG fan about what VP can offer, because they've also got a lot of control, a lot of momentum they can gain behind their lineup.
I guess the big thing for me is that IG, you've got a Gyrocopter who isn't the best at hitting the egg, for example.
Yeah.
You don't really want him to be in that melee range, because if he does get hit by the egg, then he's quite vulnerable. You've got Dazzle, who is also a positional carry, or a positional hero. And then you've got an Alchemist. Like, yeah, he attacks kind of fast, but it's not like it's really going to matter, because he's probably going to go for the build where he goes to the Solar Crest. That seems to be really popular in Europe. I'm not quite sure what Ferrari is going to go for this game. Like, maybe the mech is okay here. I know he was one of the people that I really saw use mech, him and Super, over on Vici Gaming, so we'll see what he decides to go.
Well, right now for Ferrari, they're actually using Chuan as the courier, so he's bringing the bottle out to him at least, going for that Elder Greevil's Greed. I'm interested to see also how Alchemist builds his skills. Like, do you want to go for that high level up in Acid Spray? It did get buffed up. Do you use that to try and zone out God at least?
Yeah, you definitely do. You only need this early level of the Greevil's Grade just for the Bounty Rune. There's no reason not to get it as a result. Going for the stun against G is probably not going to work, even with the Bounty Hunter on his team, or with the Bounty Hunter on the other team. He's going to get harassed a lot. You're not going to have a lot of aggressive opportunities. Like, you've got this Rubik Cliff, but Rubik is a support that doesn't actually add any damage. So it's better to just go for this purely defensive build where you're trading out farm as much as you possibly can. And he's having a pretty rough go of it right now. Alchemist is kind of ridiculous with that Bounty Rune. So even though he doesn't have a single last hit, he's still ahead in net worth.
Which shouldn't happen until now he finally gets the 2. But God takes so much damage by being underneath that Acid Spray. But it's like he kind of needs to, because Ferrari is just going to keep throwing down the acid spray, burning away his life, and then eventually finding last hits and getting the extra cash for it. And if there is even a chance that Chuan can get a couple of stacks up, then Ferrari gets even more money coming into him. And this is the mid laner we're talking about. We still have to keep in mind that Rabbit's running this gyro on the safe lane, just farming up.
Yeah, this safe lane should be okay. The offlaner should get a little bit, just because I think VP is one of those, or IG is one of those teams that are going to really focus on being able to help out their mid laner. Like, this Rubik is sitting mid, making sure that the bounty hunter's not doing anything. He helped ferry the Alchemist's bottle just to make sure that there was no shenanigans with the bounty hunter, and especially with this Sentry war that's happening right now. Chuan might think of just dropping one down, eating it. But do they actually still have one more Sentry? No, it doesn't look like it. So this should be the last one available. Yep. And I think this will tell the bounty hunter, like, okay, I don't really have to camp here for so long. I can go do other things like check the runes, check where everything is. And he still has 2 wards on him that he hasn't placed at all.
That's actually really unusual. Like, you're this far in, and IG already did their counter warding. Like, they put sentries down to try and find that block ward, but they place it down now almost 3 minutes into the game to get the high ground vision in the mid lane play.
I think they wanted to make sure that they weren't going to get dewarded, and just to make sure that if they had to have a ward for the Ancients, that it'd be readily available. And they know that the Ancients aren't being stacked up for Ferrari, so he's not going to use it necessarily to block out any camps or anything like that, but I think that's the reasoning behind it. And you don't really need it for a Phoenix, right? He's always going to have the dive available, and he should see the Rubik coming.
Yeah, just like at that point too, like Phobos is forced to actually be pushed off the bottom lane. Rabbit tried to get really aggressive by coming in with a double level up in Rocket Barrage and just trying to force him away. So at least now Rabbit's got a lot of space for that Gyrocopter to catch up to the Chaos Knight on the bottom lane at least. Because the ZK sitting up here, Eldon's happy as Larry. 21 for 10 right now on this Chaos Knight. Like, he can have his choice of items. And is this even the one of these games too where you look for the early armor on the CK? Or do you want to see him build for more like earlier stat items, the drums, the treads, that kind of jazz?
I kind of prefer if he would go for the early stat items, like even going for something like an SNY, just because I think it'd be better suited than, say, the armlet. Like, there's a lot of different things that slow tick through. Like, you've got the acid, you've got the rocket rush. Like, it's going to be pretty hard to armlet toggle.
Could be a little bit of trouble right now for Lure. Just getting chipped down around a little bit. God needs a little bit more mana. Can't really blink it forward, and actually Snowball protection. Now they can start off with a Shadow Strike, and they reality ripped him back, but on the other side of the shards, they actually isolate him off. Lure will miss the stun, but Queen of Pain still there with a scream to ensure that Virtus.Pro take the first blood.
And that's huge right now for the Queen of Pain to be able to rotate in, get that kill. This Bounty Hunter wasn't actually doing too much, and FNG is trying to create space, but with that sentry down in mid lane, and he's trying to gank an Alchemist who is playing naturally defensively, he just had to accomplish something.
Yep.
And I think with G getting this kill, what this is going to lead to as well is that he can eventually go and be a little bit more active because he has that kill net worth advantage, meaning that he can eventually leave this mid lane for the Bounty Hunter. Or even the Phoenix at some point, because the Phoenix is, you need to hit levels with this hero. Like, you can't just be like a level 4 Phoenix without dive. He's actually doing really well right now. This might prompt...
Yeah, Rabbit's coming over. Like, King J's here too, but the Sentry Ward is revealing the fact that Bounty Hunter's moving after King J. He's been slowed down by the 3 Bulls, which were attacking him directly, and now IG loses the vision. But the Icarus starts weighing Chuan in the perfect position to pick up Phobos, drag him back. The shards will ensure that Phobos has to stick around for the Fade Bolt kill. The Bounty hasn't managed to find anything else, but now he realizes he's visible. The Sentry Ward is here. I don't think there's a way out for FNG, as Bounty Hunter takes the full Rocket Barrage, and they do find the kill. Chuan picking up a double kill as the support Rubik.
It takes 4, but I mean, it's well worth it to be able to isolate both the Bounty Hunter, who's struggling pretty hard right now. He's only level 2, he doesn't have boots, he's only got that Orb of Venom and that Observer Ward right now, and I mean, I think he didn't know that it was there originally just because of the way that he was positioned around the map. He just like...
He only knew after he got himself caught up in the camp.
Yeah, and he had no idea that it was actually, like, he was just moving further into it onto the right. Like, if he had actually just gone up and around, he might have been okay, but pretty unfortunate death, and this is going to help out. Luckily for him, he was only level 2, so in terms of XP and net worth, he doesn't give up anything. That's the one positive side of things, but it does help alleviate the pressure in this bottom lane for IG.
Yeah, because it also allowed Rabbit to pick into these phase boots, so his harassment into Phobos is even better now, and the control from Phobos becomes a little bit worse too. But they put a ward down on bottom lane, so Phobos has a little bit more protection now. It's away from the sentry ward, so they know they're going to be able to keep this ward up for a very long time.
Yeah, there's no way that anybody from IG knows. King J's just focusing on getting his own levels, and FNG's pretty committed to trying to at least split the XP and just harass. And he knows there's no sentries down here anymore, so he should feel pretty comfortable with this harass. You just want to keep them on the toes and make sure that the Dazzle's sitting there, because in case they go for a mid dive, they want to make sure that the Dazzle can't really get there in time, or his focus is shifted to other things.
I want to ask you about something. We saw it early today from Puppy. The panel also touched on it a little bit as well, but how successful it can be. What is this Leshrac meant to do? We might have to come back to it in a moment, but because we have a smoke gank moving up from the rest of Invictus Gaming. But I just really want to hat to that a little bit later on. What is the purpose of this support Leshrac?
This is like that C-Deck style where they rotate the carry early on to make sure that they get the defense off, and Illidan has no idea that this is coming right now.
No, he gets locked in. The shards keep him here. Lil actually took so much damage from the tower. He almost dies, TPing out the other side of the tree line. They have no way to get vision around that tree line, so they let the Leshrac go, and IG now 3-1 on the kill count.
I mean, I was struggling for answers as to what Luo was going to do for farm or levels at some point, but being able to bring your entire posse over and nail a kill on the carry is a pretty successful way to get some levels.
Yep. Especially if they can get a little bit more out of this. It's not really the greatest tower pushing lineup, but they can clean out the creep wave pretty quickly. Rabbit's already used the flat cannon charges. And with the Dazzle heal bomb too, they can get through this fairly quickly, and maybe this almost forces a rotation from VP, because what are VP going to do? Push with the Phoenix?
And this is kind of the strength of the gyrocopter, and what it's always been since TI, when Aggressive just found the style where you bring the safe lane gyro over, he can TP really early on, get aggressive, and yeah, it was nerfed. Like, Call Down went from being incredibly OP to just being like a really good spell. Same with Rocket Barrage.
Yeah.
Like, the hero can still do the same things. Nobody wants to challenge him because the Call Down cooldown is so low. Like, even at level 1, it's 55 seconds. You approach a fight at top, even with your CK, you know it's going to be up. You don't want to risk a fight against Rocket Barrage and Call Down maxed out. So you just give it up, and that's the strength of this lineup.
Man, really nice here for VP. They're able to find the stack of Invictus Game, but IG, they're moving over. They have an Observer that was watching Lil as well as Phobos coming over to steal this. There's still 2 big Centaurs left. Ferrari will take one of them. In fact, he'll take the last 3 out of that camp with the golden money. But Phobos and Lil at least were able to leech out a little bit more. So now you got a Leshrac up at level 5.5, and Phobos, who's 6.5. He's got that Nova up and running.
Yeah, what's going to matter for me the most, Toby, is just if FNG can get some levels, if you can get level 6 at a reasonable time, and they do have enough teamfight. CK is one of those heroes that is kind of underrated in the sense that it's really hard to take this hero down. I guess these gyrocopter is an okay way to deal with him, but that's when he was isolated out alone against 4 heroes.
Yeah.
But when it comes like to teamfight time, this is a really incredibly tanky hero that has a large amount of teamfight spells.
Is that when you look towards Ferrari to not build up like Aghanim center upgrades for the rest of his teammates, but maybe build into that earlier Assault Cure Us and give that teamfight like balanced back the way of IG?
Oh, definitely. At some point, you're 100% going to build that item. Like, armor is something that Alchemist sorely lacks.
It's just when he does it, because right now he's walking around with just a casual bit booster and basic boots.
Yeah. What was your question about the Leshrac?
What was the purpose of him? Like, is he just meant to be this casual support? Like, you've gone for the 3-0-2-1 build now. Like, is he just that guy that sits on the back lines? Like, why pick a Leshrac over something else, like what IG have with like the Rubik and the Dazzle?
It pairs well with the CK. Like, that's a kill combination for sure, and that's really important to have lanes that are just like straight up kill combinations. Like back then in Dota 1, if you remember, it was like the Jug Lich or something like that, or the Sven Lina.
Yep.
Like, anything that pairs well like that just kind of naturally makes sense. And it's also damage. Like, they just need somebody to be able to throw out damage so that the attention is shifted from the Phoenix in team fights. And Lesh is a really good way. Like, I would not be surprised if Lil just died a bunch of this game, but it would be okay as long as they get the egg off every time.
Okay. And Ferrari's just pulling in so much money. It's not high up on the Greevil's Tree, it's just the fact he's able to use this buffed up acid spray to take out a very big ancient stack. And this is very early on. He's already over 5,000 in the net worth, and he has exceeded that of the Queen of Pain, who's only got 1 kill to a name, no deaths, but 75 CS is there for the Quab. So it's like, it hasn't been a bad game at all for God. It's just Alchemist things.
I mean, you kind of naturally expect this out of an Alchemist, because, yeah, you get more gold because of Greevil's Greed and, you know, like the 700 gold bounty rune or whatever, but at the end of the day, you're still kind of stuck playing Alchemist. Yeah. Like, that's what Ice Frog did. Like, to make this hero kind of bearable and fun to play, I'm just going to give you, like, a huge lead to start the game.
Well, he's got it. He's got 2.6k. Like, what do you even do with this? Like, like, I know he's been experimenting around with DK as well as Beastmaster as the mid lane solos for Ferrari. I say experimenting, it's still very stable. But do you almost look at it from the same angle? Do you try and get aggressive down here and go into something more like the Blink Dagger, or go for a early Shadow Blade initiation for an Unstable Concoction.
Oh, this would be okay, but
that's a good 3-second stun. Ferrari, he's got the concoction up, able to hit into Illidan. The chance of Snowball are coming in. Now keep Illidan in place. It's a little bit long for the Rocket Rush. The Sonic Wave is perfectly from God. The Tuskar will pop the Ferrari. He's just still so tanky. And with the Haster in, he's retreating back out. The Nova Egg is down. This time Rabbit, he's caught in melee range. He still might still get stunned up by this one, actually being blocked down with the slow from Lil. He doesn't get hit, but he can't run back out of here. They turn back in for the Rocket Barrage. Phobos will tie, and Chuan now trying to go one-on-one with support, but God returns to battle, picking up God and throwing him back. But 4 heroes down for IG. Ferrari, the only man surviving a little bit further down, diving in behind the tree line. VP getting the better trade-off of the fight.
And that's exactly what I was talking about. You have the Phoenix Egg, sure, but then you have the Lushrak to ensure that nobody really gets close to it. So it's just, he sparkles around the map, does a ton of damage. The Phoenix, nobody wants to get near that egg either. It just kind of synergizes pretty well, and it's a backup function for your CK, and it just gives you an added disable. Unfortunately for them, FNG wasn't level 6. If he was level 6, that would have been such a dominant fight. He gets 2 or 3 tracks off in that fight. Maybe they can just kind of snowball into a lead, but unfortunately he's still level 5, and this just comes down to that early laning phase where they were able to catch him out with that sentry.
Man, I actually can't believe with the communication, like Rabbit was actually right on top of it. I think he backed up to get closer to the Dazzle so he could be shallow graved and potentially survive the engagement, but he could have stuck around and continued to beat into that egg and just use the shallow grave as the way to stay there.
Man, Rocket Barrage is so unbelievable, though, as an ability still. Like, if you notice, the Phoenix had full HP, Rabbit had, 100 health, and you're like, oh, I'm going to dive on top of you. He's like, all right, I'm dead.
Mistakes were made. Our abilities were underestimated. IG again, they tried this a couple of minutes ago to try and attack into the tower, and what they're going to find is an Invis Bounty Hunter. I say find, the dust doesn't trigger, the shards will fly over, but you're still back inside that Ghost Walk for the Bounty Hunter.
They've got to get out.
Do you even get out at this point? Like, you just blew smoke. Can you at least take the tier 1 tower?
Yeah, you just try to get out of the jungle, though, because you don't want to be able to fight under tracks or anything like that.
Yep.
And once, I think it's if they get hit by 2 tracks, I think IG is just going to be a little bit more hesitant to go in. There's no way that you want to fight when you're 4 heroes tracked up. That could just mean the game.
Yeah. So much money, so much momentum for VP. And you give momentum over to a player like God. Like the panel was saying it before, this guy picks up a hell of a lot of kills in the early stages of the game, and right now he's limited to 1. He would love to have a lot more than this, and the Orchid will allow him to do so, but he still needs a little bit more money to complete such a thing.
Yeah, the Orchid's going to help a lot, just being able to isolate supports out and make sure that IG have to play this 5-man style, which is good and bad against a Bounty Hunter. Like, you want to be able to be grouped up in case the Bounty Hunter's there so you can just straight up kill him, but at the same time, you never want to get into engagement where you're just tracked up, and that's why, they wanted to kind of threaten mid, and then 2 heroes got tracked up, and they kind of rethought it, and they're like, do we really want to go for this push?
Man, VP, they have the perfect Observer Ward inside the lane that IG have not counted out. Now they've got a choice. Ferrari is halfway through his Chemical Rage, but he sees Chuan. In fact, there's your jump in. Big Sonic Wave with the dive. They go into the Nova. IG, they're getting wiped in the mid until Rabbit comes in with a call down. VP, such a quick return of damage. Phobos might be back, but Chuan, he actually stole Nova. He's coming in. In fact, Phobos will force him to use it by Icarus diving in. Lil still wants to run out of here, but Rabbit, he's trapped in the tree line. Look at the 2-second stun off, but Illidan taking so much damage, so he has to bring in more of himself with that reality rip. He's still very, very low, but they'll get back out. Ferrari on the run back out. 2 more seconds till Chemical Rage comes back off cooldown. He didn't have it that entire fight, and now VP see it being popped, and they will be retreating. 8-8, that looked like it was going to be a disaster for IG until all of a sudden, Rabbit.
Yeah, again, the Rocket Barrage is so strong, and Alchemist, when he does have the Chemical Rage up, it's pretty hard to kill him. Like, there's no way that VP can really commit anymore. Chuan somehow steals the Supernova, which shouldn't be possible whatsoever, but still manages to do so. And
what do you think about this on Alchemist, man? It's a Radiance build for the Alchemist.
Okay, that kind of helps to explain why he was saving up so much money.
Yep.
Going for the Fit Booster just naturally makes him a little bit more tanky and gives him some base HP to work with. But by going for the Radiance, this is a core that you really have to deal with now. And it's one that can actually just walk into the middle of the fight and deal a lot of damage. Yeah. Like, Queen of Pain does not want to be around that. With her low HP pull.
You want to jump into Acid Spray as well as Radiance and then potentially deal with cooldown in the middle of a fight. It's like VP are starting the fight at 3/4 health.
Exactly, and Chaos Knight does decide to go for the Armlet, and it helps his illusion so much, but at the same time, you're going to have to deal with a Radiance Alchemist now. And armlet toggling is not going to be a thing anymore, and I feel like that's part of it. That's one of the great strengths of armlet,
Dire's
obviously.
middle tower is under attack.
But you have to be pretty careful right now. You still don't want to push directly into a bunch of tracks.
Yep.
And there's no reason not to wait for the Radiance, like bare minimum. And Ferrari's actually hiding it. But they have to be wondering at some point. VP have to think to themselves, what is he actually going for? Because he hasn't bought a new item in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, they'll see it on him soon. Like, the only other well, there is no other option. Like, if it was going to be a Blink Dagger, he would have bought it already. So they have to work out it's going to be a Radiance. I was going to flag for VP that finally they've actually done something about the Ancient stack. But by throwing down this sentry ward they've got here, it's not visible. There's a ward to the south as well as to the north of it, and both sentry wards do not cover over that dire sentry. So IG, they've already committed 200 gold and they can't even deward their Ancients. They have to wait it out.
That's a pretty... I mean, that's a pretty obvious spot, too. They just missed it.
Yeah. They try to get a little bit too clever with it, almost. So you actually get like a lane D ward.
Everyone's gotten so good at warding that you just like revert back to the old wards that used to be considered really bad.
Yep.
It's the next level mind game.
But also the ward positioning, like, yeah, you miss out in the Ancient stack, but this ward positioning is going to let them find the Bounty Hunter in the river too. I think that's the reason why they want to push it up a little bit further north. It gives you something against FNG.
Yeah. And IG down a little bit over 1,000 gold right now, and that's on the heels of just like the next 3 cores are doing really well, Lil's doing really well, and Lil's just had such a rough game so far.
But now this Radiance is up. Can IG, yeah, IG going to smoke themselves in the mid lane. Now this was not scouted out by Virtus.Pro. There is the track over on Rabbit, but the other heroes are not currently visible.
Yeah, they're going to notice the Radiance here real quick, and the Orchid is finished on the Queen of Pain. If she can get that on either the Dazzle or the Alchemist before his ultimate, that could be huge.
Can they even have time to fight this?
Okay, do want to take this fight.
When you start the Reality Rift, you get a 4-second stun, that's going to help, but the snowball protection is there, and now we can actually turn it back in. Phobos going for the dive, but where is this Nova as well? Way back next to that T1 tower, and Ferrari's just going to walk back out of here. He might get stunned up, but he's still very, very tanky. The Shallow Grave is there with a call down. Oh my! FNG did not want to walk himself into the middle of that, giving Rabbit now a double kill. They're burst healing back up as well as taking this Tier 1 tower.
I mean, Chuan stealing the Chaos Bolt and just immediately reversing a 4-second stun was absolutely pivotal in that fight. Ferrari was the target for the most part. He just front-lined it, but he's so difficult to kill. The Radiance missed chance. His natural regen, he had his ultimate going the entire time.
Yep.
The Queen of Pain Orchid was unable to do anything, and your 2 frontliners were a Bounty Hunter who's level 7 that only has a wand when it comes to tankiness, and a CK that just immediately got 4-second stun.
Even if you want to have a crack at it, the fact that Tuskar was there almost instantly to save Ferrari, like you use your initiations and that Tuskar's there to make it so the initiation doesn't work, and we could actually have a look at it again. There's the 4-second stun, and then instantly picked him up and just returned it. And there was nothing Illidan could do. He was locked inside the fingers of Rubik with the telekinesis.
Yeah, Illidan was just going to go for the stun and then immediately go for the Phantasm, but I mean, everything was just done in such a good order.
Man, such a great fight for IG, and they're getting them back-to-back now, which is allowing Jaro as well as the Alchemist to move up as the number 1 and number 2 net worth positions on the field.
Yeah, and this is so huge for the Alchemist right now because he's purely built for the late game. Like, he doesn't have any of those side items like the Solar Crest.
Yep.
And his farm item just happens to be a Radiance, which obviously got buffed in terms of the cost. And against a lineup like VP's where you don't really have like the best ultra late game and you have to deal with a hero like this, it's going to be pretty rough.
I'm actually wondering too, like, are we like, because you never really cap out in the IG side. Like, you keep giving Ferrari more money, he keeps buying Aghanim Scepters for everyone else. Rubik, Dazzle, Tuskar, Jaro, they all have upgradable Aghanim Scepter ultimates.
It's like half of those are like the worst Ags upgrades.
Yeah, they really are.
You got the Tuskar kick, which is just like the most underwhelming thing in the entire world. And then you've got the Gyrocopter, the global call down.
Yeah. The Rubik one is good though.
Yeah, the Rubik one is good.
The Rubik one is fantastic.
I didn't mean to shut you down like that. Alright, so the Rubik still has the Chaos Bolt. That's probably one of the better abilities that he can steal. I still don't know how Chuan stole the egg. And if he could get something like the track,
he came up from the high ground. Like when they were fighting in the mid, he was up in the fog of war. So you actually, Phobos didn't know where Chuan was positioning wise.
Okay, that makes sense.
That was the reason why.
You should still almost always just pop the Fire Spirits because it has no animation.
Yeah.
It shouldn't really be stealable, but IG, they're grouped up. They understand that they're incredibly strong right now. The Alchemist can't really be touched. He's even turned off his Radiance right now. with this invis ring.
Don't give out a signal sign. Illidan right now, there's a big sign of him dying. He's going to phantasm up, but that rock is still going to focus on the real one. The call down, making it difficult for Illidan to get out until Phobos throws down the Sunray Rabbit. Just wants to try and turn himself out of this. There are 2 tracks up. The third one's over on a Rubik Illusion, so we're not going to count that one. But Ferrari, he's standing in, he's actually blocking in FNG. FNG is hitting an invisible wall, but Ferrari's lost vision now of the bounty hunter. Now they can come out. There's a new rocket down, and hello Ferrari. Can he get this done up? They need that detection. The headbow sentries as well as dust available. God, the Nova is up in a really good position. They have to walk up. Have they actually got the kill? They can't actually attack into it. Now they can, but it's too late. Phobos gets the pop. They come down. Let the Shuriken toss bounce around. Luo kept alive by the shallow grave. They're still burning down the fire spirits, but not enough to find themselves a kill. They actually stay alive for this. They get the kill on the Queen of Pain, and they survive underneath the Nova.
I really thought they were almost going to be able to burst down a few heroes there, but they just didn't have enough, and then it was such a weird commitment because IG decided to go for the egg. They weren't able to get it, but BP just doesn't have enough in the way of team fight, especially when the Chaos Link's the hero that gets opened up on. He was at 500 HP to start that fight. There's no way that he's going to re-engage there, even with that egg.
Yep. Well, Ferrari, I was wondering if he was just going to go directly into tank and they just turn this into a 5-man battle, but he goes for the BTs instead. So finally upgrading those treads into something else.
I mean, he's building really late game right now. Like, all of these items are items that you would want in the late game.
You just wait,
you can turn that
you wait for the heart, the
exactly.
AC later, and then what else do you even want as an alchemist?
BKB for sure, at some point. Yep. And right now,
unless he feels he can just tank through everything. Yeah, they jumped in. God actually blinked forward, which will allow the Alchemist to fly, but he'll actually tell himself
I think he's
4
actually just gonna go
seconds on
down.
Illidan. I don't know what happened just there. King J couldn't help him. He ended up being just an inch too far away to let the Shallow Grave go, and he'll try and TP himself out in time,
FNG
and he is successful. No stuns.
Oh no, FNG played it a little bit greedy. He was hoping to run into other heroes.
And he's going to get punished for it. Underneath the sentry ward, perfectly visible, and IG just slap him down.
That was just going for a little bit too much and trying to be a little bit over-aggressive. I think just isolate the kill on the Dazzle. That's free track money regardless. I think he just assumed that his team had that, or somebody would have it disabled to back that up.
Yeah.
But they used it all just to get that kill on Ferrari.
I also, I was wondering what Ferrari was doing. Like, he saw them coming in throughout the concoction. It must have been like the Queen of Pain blinking forward. Like, this is instantly a kill. And then the rest of them turned up. He's like, okay, I regret my decision.
But even then, he was always going to get orchided.
Yeah.
I think Ferrari just got a little bit too happy and excited. He's like, oh, that Queen of Pain just wasted blink. And he's like, okay, I just got orchided.
And maybe that brings up the question mark. Does Ferrari now just go directly into the BKB next? Like, don't go for the tanky items anymore. You've still got your Vit Booster and your Chemical Rage.
Yeah, especially if they keep controlling the CK like they have been this entire time. Like, the Chaos Knight hasn't really been a factor for physical damage, and Ferrari hasn't really been forced into getting into a one-on-one fight with him so far. So maybe just going to go for being able to break the Orchid and just not get stunned.
That's one way to do it.
He can still get bursted down pretty quickly just by the Queen of Pain if he gets the Orchid off before that Chemical Rage. Like, we saw that at bottom. Like, he had the Chemical Rage go off, and he still got bursted down so quickly.
Yeah, that's when the Dazzle needs to be, like you said, he's positional style hero in the right position to try and save Ferrari, especially if they're going to use him as such a tank.
Exactly, and Ferrari's not building a blink or anything like that, so if you're not going to go for the blink, then there's no way that you're going to get the stun off in the middle of a fight.
This still really feels like a 5-man walk forward from IG. Like, if you're going to initiate with anyone, it was going to be with the Tuskar, but Tuskar is currently building into like Greed's kind of style.
Yeah, that Tusk is not very farmed. He's behind the 4 position Leshrac this game. He's been falling pretty far behind, but luckily for IG, it doesn't quite matter because the CK is just as poor right now in relative net worth. But he's behind the Queen of Pain pretty significantly, and he's just above his Phoenix, who had such a hard laning phase.
And it's funny though, because like you talk about the CK being in such a bad position, but I'm also looking at Lil walking around with a rod of Atos, like, and a level 11 Leshrac. Like, he's still got a lot to work with as this support, a lot more than what like Rubik and Dazzle will bring as far as damage and control out to the fight. Yeah. And maybe not Chuan, maybe not the Rubik. Especially as Chuan's is 25 gold away from Blink. Yeah, this Rod of Atos helps so much, though, against cores that, for example, the Gyrocopter, once he starts to lose those BKB charges, it's going to really help you isolate him and catch up. It helps a lot against the Alchemist, just because you can kite him pretty much infinitely. Yep. And this is just more arguments for Ferrari to eventually build into the BKB. Grab it. Do they have enough? No, they don't have anywhere near enough control, not while he's walking around with that BKB. That's that blink I was waiting for over on Rubik. Now, he actually bought that back at base, so it's flying out in the courier to himself. Didn't get it from the side chop this time around, so it's not already there yet. And this is actually not even slowing down the push. Chuan's still confident enough he can sit in the front lines. Gets tracked up, doesn't care.
Of all the heroes that are just like standing in the front, it's Chuan.
Yeah. Probably the weakest of them all. But don't worry, he's got King J behind him, and King J, the stand-in, Chuan, that blink forward, catch out FNG, the shards are flying into, and the perfect dust timing. Chuan, it was just the next level, it was the bait. He saw the crocodile tears, and VP took sympathy.
He's so fast. Like, he knew that FNG was going to be there just to try to slow them down by track, and hope that IG wasn't going to force the fight, but he instantly realized, he's like, okay, FNG is going to be there still, just blink forward, go for the YOLO dust.
And this is why I was having a lot more confidence of IG coming into this competition, where you just see the way they're synergizing, the way they're moving, even with like their coach standing in for Super, they're still finding this great initiation. They come in with a plan. It may not be the cleanest, most stable, saying this is going to work, like Ferrari, like he's in real trouble in the mid. It's the one charge, just can't keep him up. Chuan actually jumps back in, returns the Sonic Wave, almost picking off God, but he'll lose his life with this one, and actually give a double kill over to Illinois. I'm sorry, Caster's Curse just hit IG. They just got nailed.
That was way too over-aggressive. Like, we've been talking about this entire time. Like, Ferrari is pretty tanky, but I mean, you still need something to break that Orchid.
And it's just one of those situations where I really just want to eat my words when I said about them now. It's like, I really thought they'll be nice and tight. Like, you know, one little slip up of Ferrari on the bottom lane where he got really over-aggressive when Quat blinked in. And now a very similar thing ends up happening here in the mid lane, and VP get a double kill rewarded into a Chaos Knight, and that's the first two kills of Illidan. That's the first time he's managed to find a kill in 28 minutes. And he's just rewarding himself. He's got his drums, he's got his Yasha now, probably going to build into that full SY, and just have a great old time.
Even going for the Manta at this point, I would actually maybe like the Manta a little bit more.
Just so you got so many Chaos Knights, and what were you looking to dodge as well? Or?
Just being able to make sure that you make it harder for the Rubik to isolate which one it is. So when he tries to spell steal, it becomes a little bit more confusing, and the Chaos Knight can just be a little bit more aggressive.
Or force the Rubik onto a different target instead.
Yeah, I don't know why I said SNY early on. I'm just so used to that item being built, but I forgot that Manta got a pretty big
with the Chinese teams, man, like they still do it. Like they were doing it during the qualifiers. You're right, with the new patch, maybe it gets changed around, but they were still happy to build 32-minute SMYs. And on any hero. Bottom lane, God, well, okay, he just explodes in the bottom lane to a 4-man gank from Victus Gaming.
It's actually going to be the Manta style for Ferrari. That's going to be what is going to be his choice for breaking the Queen of Pain Orchid.
Instead of the BKB?
I think it's still a little bit greedy, but I guess he just wants to be able to deal damage at the same time and make sure that he can't really get kited down. It gives him some move speed to work with, better stats, but in my opinion, I just think I like BKB as an item overall. I think that item's just amazing.
IG, I think they're just poking the beast. They have no intention to kill him. If they're like trying to force a rotation for VP, if they have vision, Lil actually starting up the Edict. I don't think he feels safe here, and he shouldn't either. Chuan's going to pick him up. Actually ends up stealing the Diabolic Edict, but he gets stunned up by Lil. Can Lua get enough control? They got the Meg charge as well. Chuan, he lives through it. Barely. Almost dropping down. He was sub 40 HP. So they get the kill over on the support Leshrac, who was still fairly farm. He's actually building into a full Scythe of Vice as well, after killing off the Queen of Pain on bottom lane. So 2 good kills for IG in just a couple of minutes.
Oh, that was so brutal. He was so close to killing Chuan. Like that, I think the mech came in, and at the same time, like his Edict just faded right before Chuan dies. It's pretty unfortunate, but that was still a pretty greedy position for Lil to be in. But I understand why he did it. He was pretty certain that IG was going to go for the Roshan, and he just wanted to make sure that he could force people back. So it's just a positional thing.
It's a trap. It's such a trap. FNG, they actually pick him up and throw him back in again. Chuan has the gem on him, and this bounty hunter has now found no place to hide, at least invisible places. 16-11 as IG, well, they do have the man advantage for another 27 seconds. It looks like they're going to come up.
Without a Force Staff or a Blink Dagger or anything like that, FNG is just getting caught over and over again. They've got the gem. They're just playing a really patient game. And if you notice, Toby, they're just making absolute sure that he's not getting any track kills out.
Yep.
Like, they never commit when track is up. They make sure that FNG dies first, and then they go for the pushes.
It's just so smart. In comes now. Phobos needs to get that Nova off, dropping low. Now he'll do it, but he's right in the middle of both Lua and Rabbit. They burn through through the supernova, and they've already managed to find a couple of kills. They're going to make it a couple more as Illidan will drop. That's 3 players down for Virtus.Pro. No Phoenix on the track for 50 seconds. The Chaos Knight does have buyback available, but now track is stolen by Chuan. He turns it into the Bounty Hunter, so they got perfect vision on him twice over, and the melee ranks will be taken by IG. They're not going to stick around for the range ranks. They already got what they came for. That creep wave's going to basically melt as he leaves the Manta like Radiance burning illusions behind. VP cannot chase.
Honestly, Chuan's just had such a ridiculous game. Like the amount of abilities that he's been able to steal. Now he gets the track, which was VP's comeback mechanic, and now it's IG's way of getting even further ahead at this point. And IG, I mean, they just kind of casually walk in there, take the racks. They don't even care because the CK isn't very tanky. The Queen of Pain has the BKB now, but even then you don't really want to frontline with her. And with all those BKBs available, the Phoenix deck just doesn't really do a whole lot because IG just hard commits for it.
And IG will be able to commit even more. Like Ferrari is only a couple hundred gold away. In fact, I believe he's actually finished the full heart now. So 32-minute heart coming in for the Alchemist. You get the Glimmer Cape over on the Dazzle. So King J's got ways for them to get back out again. Chuan doesn't need any Alchemist help in this game. He is not far off. Like, we're looking like, what's that, 1,600 gold away from having his full Aghanim Scepter over on the Rubik. He's already having such a huge impact in the fight. The only person that hasn't really changed much is Luo, and that's going to change because he just picked up his Greaves and Blink Dagger. So IG now have jump initiation, the one thing they've failed to have for the last 32 minutes, but still managed to claim a Rax.
Honestly, it's just because they've been having such patient, smart play. Like, they make sure, again, if they find FNG, they kill him. Then they continue to go for the push because they know that there's no track rebuttal. They know they can't really overextend at that point. Like, even if they lose the fight at that point, if there's no track to back them up, I mean, IG's going to feel perfectly safe with that type of trade.
Yep.
And at the same time, I mean, this is exactly what you want out of your support. Like, the Dazzle has only died twice this game. He's done a really good job of backing everybody up with the Grave. Chuan's had just game impact after game impact. Like, that win, that one team fight in mid where he steals the CK Bolt and then he RNGs the 4-second stun.
That really is one of the turning point moments right there for VP.
And Illidan just has to be so frustrated overall with how this game's gone.
Well, you can't even ask him to do anything. Like, he's up against like a Radiance Burning Alchemist, so he knows he can't out DPS, he knows he can't armlet toggle under. So what are you meant to do as CK?
This is kind of the issue though, is like, he fires off like one spell after another quite slowly, and then after that, Chuan just, you know, steals the stun. It's really easy to steal.
Yep.
Immediately turns it around on him, and this might prompt Illidan to have to use the Phantasm a little bit earlier than he wants, just to initiate with the fight, because he absolutely has to get it off for them to have any chance of winning the fight.
You're hoping for the chaos factor, right? So Chuan doesn't know who to actually like steal from.
It's more just that every single time he enters the fight, he just gets blown up immediately before he can get anything off. Okay. And you don't want to just enter a fight with like 400 HP, then your illusions don't have any tank ability because the gyro focus fire just immediately kills them all.
Well, Phobos, this time he'll have a guaranteed Nova, that BKB. He's down to 9 seconds on the duration, but he's starting to burn away a Ferrari, but Ferrari doesn't care. Okay, now he might. He's down to half of his life. They need some help to come in. The cooldown is there from Rabbit with his BKB. A 3 seconds on Ferrari, and they couldn't get in range. King J was not in range for the Shallow Grave, but it may not matter because the Gyrocop, the Rabbit with a double kill. They move back out of range of Phobos' ultimate, and Chuan blinks forward with the tongue. He's Rabbit. She's throwing him back and around. A triple kill for Rabbit. The control was perfect from Chuan, and the game is IG. They'll take game 1 here in this best of 3 quarterfinal for ESL One Virtus.Pro. And I just feel like they got outweighted by IG. The patience was solid.
I mean, before the series, you were actually like one of the few people that was like, okay, I really believe in IG. I think they're going to be able to pull this together. They play such a stable style, and this was exactly what they did. Like, they were incredibly patient. I really want to highlight the fact that every single time is like, okay, let's kill FNG first, then we go for the push. Just smart, patient play. They made sure they never overextended. They just took objective after objective. This is the type of IG that you want to see.
Man, this is the type of IG which you got to remember back to the first ESL one, the one happened in Frankfurt in 2014. Never forget 22-0. These guys were so hot during that tournament. Most people underrated them coming into that event. Maybe we could start to see a bit of a repeat. Maybe we could even have the IG versus EG battle. It won't be in the grand final. It might be in the semi-final. But maybe that's possible as well.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I'm not getting ahead of myself. I know, I get caught up in hype.
VP is still a top 6 TI team. This is only one game in a best of 3.
Yes.
That's like that weird internet mentality, is like they lose one game, they're the worst team in the world, and then IG's the best all of a sudden. Let's pump the brakes, relax a little bit.
Dude, press 1. IG is back. And we'll be back in a moment after we go to the analysts to see if they agree with patience.
All right, thank you very much, Toby. My, oh me, an explosive game number 1. IG just looking so crisp with that execution.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way the patience in the mid game and going into pushing high ground was really important. But they took a page out of the CDEC playbook. I mean, that's IG smoke ganking with multiple heroes, including their carry gyrocopter to the top lane. Absolutely no fear, and beating VP to the punch with some of that early game aggression.
I like teams taking a chance on something like that. We'll just smoke our entire safe lane. We'll ditch it. We'll let the Phoenix farm half of an urn in the meantime, and we'll blow up the carry and the other farm's safe support. Like, it did so much, and then it turned them into killing Virtus.Pro's tower, and immediately afterwards, this fight was really big as well. Illidan here getting chain stunned, and that just gave them the start that put Illidan behind, that really hurt him catching up.
Yeah. We got to see the beautiful combo as well. I felt Alchemist just there, finished his Radiance, and you have a double protection with a Tusk as well as the Dazzle that help him out, and you there see that Alchemist, his ultimate, while he gets graved up, he's set at 1 HP, and then suddenly he's back in a fight with 50% HP. I felt the combo that they ran was beautiful. Was actually nice to see, and one of the, I guess, rare cases so far where Alchemist worked out really nice as a core again.
Yeah, some really great synergy there. We talked about this earlier on the panel, but just the ability to reset, having a Dazzle and a Tusk on the same team, the Snowball and the Grave, it allows you to take those extended fights and totally change the dynamic.
We thought it would be way worse in the laning stage, but then I forgot, when you grab a bounty rune, it's equivalent to having about, 20 CS or something like that. So it doesn't matter if you don't get a CS for the first 2 minutes. What's the big deal? So he just sat back, played really safe, didn't care about the bounty harass, and was still sitting top net worth at 0 CS.
Yeah, and you can see how effective, obviously a Queen of Pain is really going to hurt you in lane, but that acid spray zone out, that can be effective even against max range heroes. I thought Ferrari played that really, really well, and again, now 9-2 in his career on that hero.
Yeah, very impressive indeed. So I want to talk about Virtus.Pro and some of the areas they fell short. I feel like that game we really saw the weakness of the Bounty Hunter. Sure, he's great when you get the momentum, but towards the mid to late game, it seems like he was just getting picked off left and right.
Do you think it was the bounty though? I feel like I feel like CK is a hero period that has a problem. Go ahead.
We could see in this team fight, it was a decent initiation here by Phobos, trying to go for the egg, but it just went down. I think this is one of the fights though that we can clearly see that was maybe too late already. Like the combo just didn't work out as expected. You had a CK, I felt it's one of those carries that it can work in your early game, and you have a pretty good mid game, and you might go into late game, but once you fall behind, it's very, very tough to get back.
And that's what I was going to bring up. The CK is just a horrible catch-up hero.
Yes.
And that's why those early game gambits that you were talking about, where you really set that CK back in farm, the smoke gank early on, coupled with the 18-minute death that we saw in the replay, those kinds of deaths hurt CK more than they do other flash farming carries.
Yeah, absolutely. And when he's behind, you can't catch up. The next team fight goes bad, and then you're up against an Alchemist who grabs a Radiance, and then immediately after the Manta, we were talking about the cooldown buffs. It's a 30-second cooldown on Radiance on a melee hero, and then you're basically playing Naga Siren, but playing Alchemist. And then every 30 seconds, that's one creep spawn, by the way. Every 30 seconds, send an illusion to each lane, and boom, you're pushing 3 lanes at a time. And then you get your next items, and then he's super tanky. And yeah, maybe the new Chaos Knight buff helped him a lot, because it'll lower his armor as you're focusing him. And they had a lot of comebacks with Orchids and things like that, but the other supports weren't really getting any advantage out of the team fights. Lil farmed very well. He was actually playing very well in the support Lash, but they just couldn't focus enough heroes during the team fights. The stuns were a little bit too much, and we didn't see anything come out of Illidan here on the Chaos Knight.
And let's give a little love, by the way, for the big man, for Chuan on Rubik. I mean, we expected some big plays out of him when we saw the lineup that he was against, but I felt he really delivered in that game. There were just multiple fights that he turned around, really kept them in the game until they were able to take control.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So an explosive game 1, which IG took. We'll see what happens in game number 2. Now Virtus.Pro, they need this next win to stay alive here at ESL One New York 2015. But in the meantime, we've got Zoe with an interesting little interview.
And look who's back again. It's Balloon